Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Empowering Musicians Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Manley, and I'm very happy to welcome my guest, a returning guest to our show, the CEO of Financial Heart Space and spiritual mindset coach, Martin Cowart. Welcome, Martin.
Oh, Michael, it's so great to be here with you today. I love doing this. I love doing it with you, and I'm particularly excited about talking about the topic today, which is manifesting. So this is a very important topic, particularly as the world moves into virtual space, because it is in virtual space that we get to manifest a new world.
Absolutely. And I have to just say, because I think I'm not the only one who thinks of manifesting as in the camp of like creative visualization, and it makes me think of crystals and new age, sort of cliches like that. And then I had kind of an epiphany where I realized that music making is the same thing. And so I wanted you to talk about what manifesting means for you and how you got into it.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that, but let's go back and address that earlier conversation about our skepticism about manifesting and where does it come from? Because I also I would see these advertisements on YouTube and or Facebook, and it would say you can manifest. People sitting in a deep pool and flying around the world in jets and thinking if you just have the positive thinking, you can be manifesting a jet. And I would say, and I look at that and I think to myself, I think that's a bunch of bull. And in some respects it is, because this is the thing. You cannot manifest from the human mind and from your human desires. You have to manifest from the desires of your heart. Mm-hmm. Manifesting has to come from your heart. It's got to be a heart's desire, not a human desire. If you're thinking, oh, my life would be so much better if I could live in this wonderful house on the side of a mountain, Hawaii, yes, that is probably true, but the universe really doesn't care about the house you live in or the car you drive. But the universe has your back. The universe always has your back into creating a world built out of unconditional love energy. And that's what manifesting is. When you're doing something out of your mind, out of the human mind, it's really a fear-based drive. It's coming out of fear. I don't like where I'm living. I don't like the way the world is right now. I deserve a better house, a better home, whatever it is. That will not work. It will not work. Because you cannot manifest out of fear energy. You can only the most powerful energy in the world is the energy we all have within ourselves. It is the same energy within you that lets you turn that French horn into just a pile of brass and knobs and into magic, into creative form, into music that inspires the world. And you're so right. It is out of that deep inner power, that power of unconditional love that allows us to create music and to create everything that allows us to create money and create wealth and to create the financial resources we need to grow our business. You find the resources within you to manifest that music when you use your instrument. So that's where you're not thinking, oh, I've got to push this note to get this sound. You're in you're bypassing the human brain to connect the spirit to the body to manifest the music. And that's exactly what we do when we manifest money and any other material thing in the world. Is it comes out of that emptiness, that void. And that, they always say, I've talked to you before, that it's not the note, it's the space around the notes that creates the music, the vibration. So we have to go in to manifest money, which we'll talk about how I manifested $1,164,000 in 48 hours in just a second. But I want to get the setup and the view where it's got to come from. It's got to come from your heart. It's got to come from that same space within you that allows you to create music. So I'm going to take a stop there and let you just ask me a question or two if you've got one, if that answered your question and helped create the connection between manifesting money and manifesting music.
Yeah, I think it did. And when we study, we learn over time that if you think about not missing the note, or if you think about trying, or if you think about I'm really worried that you know, I'm not feeling right here, or my fingers where my fingers are. If you think about all of those messages, you don't get very far. But
Right.
where you get far is when you imagine the sound that you want to make, and you have the concept and you just aim for it. And so that's where I had this kind of epiphany where I was like, well, manifesting is what we do when we make music, because we have to have that concept of what we want to sound like.
Exactly. And understand something, as human beings, we are always manifesting. We actually, everybody in the universe manifested this moment right now in time. It is exactly the way we created it, because we create out of energy. And so what we're talking about here is when we become aware of our power to manifest, and aware of how we can change and we shift energy, then we can begin to create out of that. If you're trying to play your instrument out of fear that you're going to hit the wrong notes, out of fear that you're not going to do a good job, you're probably not going to hit the right notes, and you're probably going to not perform at your best performance. Would that be true?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so, and that's the big thing about when people in your industry, we talked about before, when they're thinking about, it's the relationships we have with these things. If we have a relationship with our instrument, with our career, that we feel like we're obsessed with, that without this, we're not in love with our career, we're obsessed. We think that's the only way we can make a living. We can do this. We have a relationship that's unhealthy. The same way with our businesses. If we're obsessed with the thing, our business, our horn, it's very hard to manifest anything that's going to be of value, because we're trying to do it out of our obsession, that we've given that thing the power. It's never the thing that has the power. It's our relationship to the thing. So if we have a loving relationship with our music, with our performance, then we can manifest out of that loving relationship. And the people in the orchestra who also want to manifest this out of a loving relationship. So the first thing is we've got to move into a loving relationship, whatever it is the thing we want to manifest. And what makes money so difficult for people to manifest is that underneath the surface, most people in our culture have a fear of money, because we were raised in a world where money was used so much as a weapon of reward and punishment, that we've been traumatized by money. So
Yeah.
we live at one level, we think, oh my God, if we just had more money, we would have a wonderful life. We'd have that house on the Fendi pool. But the problem is we have a love-hate relationship with money. We're afraid of it. So the first thing is we have to have a mindset shift that says, I love money. I love the power of money. When money comes into my life as an expression of love, as a source, as a resource that will empower me to live a life of mission and service, everything changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's all about our relationship to the thing. So if a musician, I'm going to try to make this analogy and you can help me out with it. If a musician has a love-hate relationship with their instrument, it's going to be really hard. And they think, only way I can make a living, the only thing I can do is I've got to play this thing well. I'm obsessed with playing this thing well. I've got to be good at it. It's going to be really hard, because they're obsessed. They have a fear-driven relationship with the thing. So in order for you to be able to manifest beautiful music, you got to have a loving relationship with that music and say, I love this instrument. It has given me so much joy to be able to love it and to produce music and to inspire and change lives through my mastery of it to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, and I can build on that by just telling you my own story, which is how I finally learned to succeed at auditions, which I was not good at auditions. It's still something, that is not my it's not something that's naturally I'm good at, right? But I had one audition where I showed up at the wrong place, and I got a call and they said, well, why are you there? We're over here. And I showed up and I just thought, you know what? It doesn't matter how I play. They think that I'm the world's biggest idiot. And so I completely detached from my natural outcome, which was my normal thought was, I've got to win this audition, right? Yeah. And I detached completely from that. And I just said, I'm just going to go in and make music. And I played the best audition of my life that day. And I got the job. And so many of us, like so many artists, especially musicians, if you're in the classical field, you're taking auditions where you're competing with 200 or 300 other people. So if your whole goal is wrapped up in winning, you're just going to go insane, because it might take you 100 auditions or 50 or 10 to win a job.
Yeah.
And your goal can't be to win the audition. Your goal has to be authentic and true to yourself and to make music. Right. And then what happens.
Right. Exactly. You have to enjoy the creation of the music in the moment.
Yeah.
And let go of your attachment to the thing. Because if you're attached to the thing, it's usually a fear, like, if I don't get this, my life's going to come to an end. Your fear of what might happen if you don't get it. Now, a little bit of fear is okay, because that kind of puts us a little bit on edge. It kind of says, but not so fear where you're obsessed. Like, a fear that kind of that kind of, I call that fear almost an exciting fear. It's like it kind of wakes up something in us that says, I really want to do this from my heart at my very best. I want to be in my very best place. And the fear is that won't show up, and so you say, no, that's an excitement. That's a place of excitement, because that's coming from I don't know I don't need to know in my human mind what notes to play, because I know in my heart I have mastered this craft, and I'm just going to play the most beautiful music right now that I know how to play. And I'm going to tap into that inner creative spirit that creates the music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to something you said, which was that we're always manifesting. And this actually it's something that's I realized when I could catch myself or other people, where we're just unconsciously negatively manifesting all the time.
Oh, that's exactly right. Energy follows thought. Let's go back to money. Money is simply energy. That's it. Money is just an energy. It's a form of energy. Everything's a form. Everything in the universe can be explained by energy, vibration, and frequency. And either that energy is vibrating from a place of love and joy and positive, and we feel good, and so we have thoughts that feel good. So then we begin to manifest a future based on that energy, because the thoughts. So remember, energy follows the thought, and money is following the energy. If we're having thoughts of abundance and prosperity and love and joy, then money is going to follow in. Then we're going to have an abundance of money in our lives. But if we're under an old fear-based story that money is something that's going to be the root of all evil, is going to cause us so much pain, then we're going to be thinking negative thoughts about not having enough, lack, all those negative feelings that make us feel so bad. We're projecting that into the future, and that negative energy of money, that lack of money, is exactly what you're going to produce in the forward. And that's how we get stuck. Now, the antidote to all of this is going to sound a little strange, but the antidote is to love yourself.
Hmm.
Because when you really, fear is the real basic fear is the fear that you're not lovable. Just say, when people, this is when it comes to money, when people first meet me, I try to explain to them, money is never the problem. It is your fear of money. It is your fear that it's the power that you give money that is going to make you lovable if you had some of it. That's not true. You're already lovable. You're lovable because that's who you are as a human being. You're a lovable, precious, energy, spirit of love. That's what you are. So if we want to manifest that, we've got to let go of this false belief, this false mindset that says, I'm unworthy, I don't know how to play the music, I don't know how to make money, and say, what is true in this moment? And all you have to do is flip over the negative thought into the truth. I am a loving, creative musician on a journey to change the world for the better. And I love what I do, and I love life, and I love everything about life. I love me, and see how that feels.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask the universe to to show me the money, the energy of that money, so that I've got the resources I need to fulfill my life's purpose, my soul's purpose.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I'm going to stop here for a second and let you make some sort of connection that the musicians might understand in that construct.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was thinking about Kyle Cease in his book, The Illusion of Money, where he talks about, and you're getting at the same thing, where it's like, if you see your value as external as what other people value you at, and that's how you see money. And so you think, well, I'm only making this much money, so I'm only worth this. But instead you focus on your own value, right? And that's self-love, I think. That's really what
that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you value and love yourself as this precious spirit in human form, everything changes. Because the truth is, we're so much bigger than what we think we are. We think we're these individual people with these binary brains with a confused head, always trying to figure out. Well, when we realize we're so much more than that we're really spirit living a human existence, and we have all those creative powers that come with that. Everything changes, and that's how we manifest beautiful music, and that's how we manifest money, and that's how we manifest anything we want in the world out of love to support our soul's purpose. And in the case of musicians, your soul's purpose is to inspire people, bring up, because that's the vibration of good music, isn't it? Doesn't it lift the heart up into a higher level of consciousness to feel that love vibration that the universe operates on? So you musicians provide the world a beautiful, loving vibration to the universe, whether people can listen or not. You're raising the vibrational frequency of the universe into a universe of love and creativity.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely true. And the other thing that's true is that, again, if you're playing a concert, if you're taking an audition and you don't sound your best, or you're a little bit upset with how you played, or you didn't get the audition, or you didn't get out of the first round, if you see that as a judgment of your value, you're just going to drive yourself insane, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the sickness that I think that it does affect some of us, is that we get our self-esteem so wrapped up in what we do, but we forget that what our mission is to make music and not win.
Yeah, we get confused with our self-worth as being tied to something outside of ourselves.
Right.
Our self-worth is everything within ourselves. We are extremely valuable miracles of creation of the universe. And when we aware of that, and that's what manifesting is, and what we're talking about, we said before, we're always manifesting depending on if our energy is negative or positive is what we're going to get. So the more we become aware of who we are, and we become more aware of our creative magical powers, then we're able to become creators of what I'm going to go and say is a new world order built on love and on infinite love. And that's where the world's moving to right now, is those of us that are like you and me who are who are aware of this source of power within ourselves. We are creating a new world order, as Eckhart Tolle calls. We are built on, grounded in unconditional love energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we as artists, we totally accept the fact that what we do has this kind of like ineffable quality of, as you say, like inspiring others or raising the vibration, however you want to call it. And it doesn't seem logical that we could apply that same model to ourselves, right? But it's true, right? Like art, there's something that you have to just, if you're writing a score or you're writing a novel or you're playing an instrument, there is a leap of faith involved, right? You have to.
Oh, it's always beyond the understanding of the binary brain, because
Yeah.
it's not logical. It isn't logical to our minds.
Yeah.
You know, the music you produce is not logical. You've mastered it by performing it. But you know, if you were just to take notes on a piece of paper, an instrument, and a human being before anything was done, and you said, okay, those three things are going to make music to change the world. To the human mind, that's the most illogical thing they've ever seen in their life. They go, how in the hell are you going to do that? But if you let go of that logic and you jump into faith and say, well, other people have done this, I'm going to master my craft so that I don't even have to think about the music. I'm just going to magically connect the spirit to the beat and manifest this amazing music in the world in concert with others, and I'm going to inspire and change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you think about you know, writing, more creative, and athletes too, it's like there's no way you can think about, you know, pole vaulting over a 20-foot bar, right? Like there's no logic to that. Like a human shouldn't be able to do that. And when somebody starts writing a novel, they don't know what the end is. They have no idea where it's going.
No idea.
Because it doesn't come from here, as you said. It comes from a spiritual place, and that's that flow state that some of us. It's called the flow state. You know, where you do your best creative work.
And no matter what you're creating.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to be when you're creating money.
Yeah.
You know, we got to, and so let me, I know people are listening. We promised that I would tell why I created $1,164,000
Yeah.
in 48 hours. And let me tell you exactly how I did it so you can do it too. Well, first of all, it comes out of a wonderful book by Pam Cowart called E Squared. And in her book, she teaches you, there's like 9 experiments on how to manifest. It's one of the best books. It's one of the most direct books I've ever read on how to manifest. And as a matter of fact, I have the audio version, which I find to be more helpful. She reads because it kind of transfers those skills. So if you want to know the source of where I got it, and your readers do, is a book called E Squared by a woman named Pam Cowart. And that's how I think you got it and you've used it. And that's where I learned it. And this is the first experiment. And what goes like this is you write a letter, you get out your journal and you get into heart space and you think, well, what is it that you want to manifest and for what reason? And in my case, I wanted to manifest $1 million to support my mission in Africa, to build this community in Africa with my business partner. So what you do is you get out your journal and a piece of paper and a pen, and you write this exact thing. You write, "Dear infinite potential," because there's a field, she calls it this field beyond the mind, this field of unconditional love. She calls it the field of infinite potential, IP. So you write this, dear infinite potential, do you truly exist? I want you to send me a gift or blessing so that I will know without a shadow of a doubt that the universe has my back And I wrote, I want you to send me $1 million in the next 48 hours. So to support me in my mission to create a world of abundance and prosperity. It is Saturday, July 2nd at 2:30 in the afternoon. I want this delivered to me by Monday at 2 o'clock, whenever 48 hours is, on Tuesday afternoon on July 4th. Sincerely, Martin Cowart. And I put that out there. And then I began to feel the positive energy of that $1 million showing up in my account. I began to fantasize about it. What would I do if $1 million were to come in my account? Oh my God, I might be on Oprah. I'd have $1 million to really pour into manifestation of this program over in Africa. I really began to feel into what would I do with $1 million to change the world? How would that actually show up? And just play with that fantasy. Play with the energy of that fantasy. And I use the fantasy of Oprah Winfrey show a lot, because I think if I ever get on her show, I have made such a significant impact in the world. It's worth celebrating. So just thinking about being on her show and being a guest on her show to talk about what I'm doing in the world brings up in me that higher vibration that I need to manifest the $1 million. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're thinking about the energy of it, right?
I'm thinking about the energy of that money.
Okay.
You know, I'm creating it because that's what money is, energy. So I'm manifesting the energy of that money. And so I'm looking for things over the next, they come into my field of potential in front of me to show me where that $1 million is going to come from. So 1 o'clock came around on the, I did this like, I think I did this on, I don't know, a Saturday or anyway, the 48 hours came and the money was not in my checking account. And I was like, oh, but where is it? If it's not in my checking account, where is it? Then I remembered about what the money was going to be used for. And I thought, wow, it's going to be used to liberate these wonderful, valuable LGBTQ Africans living in a refugee camp who are worth billions of dollars in unmanifested income in their lives because they've been held in a place where they can't manifest it. So I said, well, here's the asset. Here's the billions of dollars potential that hasn't in the world, potential that hasn't manifested. And then I remembered, oh, but I'm also in the middle of creating a program, and our goal, it's $97 a month to subscribe to it. And if our goal is to create 1,000 subscribers into this program, the energy of this program, it's $97 per person for 1,000 is $97,000 a month. That's $1,164,000 of potential cash money coming into our world to create that. So I've created the link and the bridge for all of it to begin to happen. And now we're out creating this program to manifest the program and the money out of love. And it's happening. And the next thing about manifesting is this. Again, it's not the money. It's not even the thing. It's the relationship to the thing. Mm. So when things are not showing up as you mind expects them to, you have to say, well, what is it? Maybe I'm too focused on the thing. Maybe I need to back up and focus on building more loving relationships and opening up my heart to attracting the people in the world who can support me in creating this thing into my life. So what I will say about manifesting, since I began to open up that, all of a sudden, all of these people who have with all these wonderful gifts to help me build this thing have started showing up in my field of potential to support me in creating it. So the manifesting itself, it's the manifesting that's so much fun and energizing. It is the thing. The thing will come from the love and the support. It's like, it's not the piece of music, it's the love and the support and the orchestra coming together in love for what they do and their relationship with each other to create the symphony. It's the same thing. It's the manifesting is in the manifesting, is in the writing of the music, it's in the creating of it, without any thought about what the thing you're creating is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of it is also about manifesting. In one level is about feeling that you're worthy, right? And I remember,
Yes,
yeah,
manifesting out of love, right?
Yeah, I remember once I played this audition, and it was several rounds, and I got to the last round, and it was the next day, and I picked the number that won. I had to play first, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to play first. It's early in the morning. I feel like crap, and I'm warming up, and it doesn't feel good. And then I just stopped, and I said, you know what? You have. I said to myself, you're allowed to play well. I was like, it doesn't matter how you feel. You're allowed to just go in and play well. And I didn't win the job, but I did play well. I played the best round I did. And it was because I think my ego had been attacking me so much. And I finally just said, you know what? You're worthy of this. You're worthy of just going in and doing your best. And sometimes the negative manifesting is just us telling ourselves we're not worth something.
Right. Yeah, and if you're telling yourself you're not a good musician, and you're not worthy of money, and you're not worthy of being a good musician, guess what? You're not going to get good music, and you're not going to get money because you're leading your life with that negative energy. And that's the whole thing about moving into heart space. Whenever we're in heart space, whenever we're in that the spirit of love, when we're in that space of love, that place of infinite love energy, it has to come from that place. We have no doubt of how worthy we are. There's no doubt about it. When you're in flow, Michael, I know for a fact that when you're in flow, you're not thinking about I'm worthy. You just know at your deepest part of your being that you're loved, and you're loving what you're doing, and you are enjoying and your heart's filled with joy and excitement about the moment. And
Yeah.
you're not thinking about when it's over or when it's not. But what might happen, let's say you're having one of those days when you're not. Let's say you're distracted because you've had an argument with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your spouse or something. It's taking you out of that love energy. Those can impact your performance. Those can impact because when you've had an argument with somebody, it's attacked our sense of love for ourselves.
Yeah.
So what we got to do is you've got to say, okay, I'm a professional musician. I cannot let my personal relationship with my partner or whatever is creating this tension. I have to find a way to let that go and get back into love energy so I can perform.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's really crucial for musicians and any collaborative artist, right? Whether you're a dancer or a singer or a musician, that you actually have to do this with other people, right? And the people that come in and their motivation is all ego, right? Like they just are driven to be the best. They're the ones who are the worst collaborators in a group. Like if you're trying to work out the intonation or the phrasing, they're going to be the people that just don't know how to get along with other people because they're coming from that ego and not from that heart space, as you say.
Right. And they're going to so that performance anxiety, that need to be perfect, that need to be superior, that need to be the leader, is actually going to be the thing that's going to make the performance fall off because they're not in step with that energy flow of love that's necessary in order for the whole collaborative effort to succeed.
Yeah, and I think one thing musicians sometimes forget is that, like, yes, you're going to be in a practice room for 6 hours a day or whatever for your whole undergraduate career, but it is how you play with others. And I've seen, situations where people were terminated not because they weren't excellent players, it was because they didn't have that other thing going on.
Right.
How do I actually work with other people, and how do I make music versus how do I be the best, right? There's a very big difference between those things.
Yeah. How do you make distinction between the instrument being a transaction and a connection?
Right.
How do you because if you're coming from your own ego, you're trying to use the instrument for a transaction to make you feel good about yourself. It won't work.
Yeah.
But if you decide, how do I take my knowledge, my strength, my ability to raise it, how do I use all of this for connection? And everything will change.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about transactional versus transformational processes,
right,
in the work that I do in the labor movement, and it's that transformative result we're looking for.
Yes. Transformation happens in the heart.
Absolutely,
it doesn't happen in a transaction.
Yeah. So I'm going to go as long as my battery life will allow us today. I'm down to 20% here, but I wanted to just recap one thing. So you talked about manifesting $1 million, and you wake up and there's not magically $1 million in your bank account, but what there is there's a path forward that comes from your mission that was sort of a light bulb that went off for you, and that was the value of the manifesting.
Yeah, you're looking for the energy of the money.
Yeah.
You got to have the positive energy of the money first before the actual cash. It's not going to just magically, that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to magically have a Mercedes show up in your driveway all of a sudden.
Right.
But you might magically have someone or something that will show up in your life, and it usually does at the last minute, to move your heart's desire forward.
Yeah.
I guess if your heart's desire is something I've got to have, my heart's desire is to drive that Tesla. Maybe you keep that. I'm not saying you can't put it out there. Maybe you do. And if it's coming from the heart, it's coming from a heart's desire, you might be able, you'd probably be able to manifest that $100,000 Tesla in the right way. But it's got to come from the heart. It's got to come from that place of deep love for yourself and for others, not out of a narcissistic need to look better than other people because you happen to drive a nice Tesla. There's a difference.
Right. Yeah, and there's one thing I want to just point out, which is that, and it's counterintuitive, right? The more selfish we are, the less we're going to attract, right? But the more selfless we are. So your mission was not about you; it was about your mission in Africa, and that's where abundance comes from. It comes from that service versus ego, I think.
It comes from a place of service and love and wanting to. Yeah, it comes from that. It comes from that place of serving others, because that's where happiness is. I think it was Albert Schweitzer who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1954 that said he never met anybody who's truly happy who did not know how to serve others. And I learned that when I was gifted with the ability to serve in the leadership team at Ground Zero at St. Paul's Chapel, when I was serving the rescue workers across the street I ran the food service operation. And in that, we were able to manifest 3,000 meals a day with no kitchen to take care of everybody across the street, with all of the resources we ever needed to do that.
Yeah.
Which was when I first got down there in the beginning, I thought, how are we going to serve? They were putting out 3,000 meals a day on grills outside and the health department shut that down. I thought, how in the hell are we going to put out 3,000 meals a day? It was kind of like the story of Jesus and the loaves and the fishes. We don't have a kitchen. We don't have, I got my license to do it, but we don't have a kitchen. But what we had was we had a lot of love.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people who wanted to participate. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we were manifesting 3,000 meals a day to take care of people across the street out of nothing.
Wow. That's a really powerful story. I remember you telling me about that. It's amazing. Well, in our last minute here, is there anything you can give our listeners, either an exercise or a tip on how to get to this heart space more within themselves?
The most important thing I can tell anyone to do is to begin to cultivate an intimate relationship with yourself through prayer, through contemplative prayer and meditation. It's really, everything happens on the inside out. So find a spiritual practice that you can take you inside where life is happening so that you can create that world outside. I don't know any way to get into heart space other than opening the heart, quieting the mind, and being still in meditation. And one of the best, direct, easiest is there is a meditation done by Ram Dass, two of them. One of them is sitting around a fire, and one of them is called Loving Awareness. I am Loving Awareness. Both of those are wonderful guides, meditation guides that can help you get directly into heart space without a lot of effort.
Great. I'll have to check those out. And I want to thank you again, Martin, for your time today. And if you want to find Martin, you can look for him on Facebook or LinkedIn. He's also at martin@financialheartspace.com. And you can find me at Empowering Musicians on Facebook. Join my Facebook group, and also on LinkedIn. And we're going to all leave today with a new understanding of how we can get more in touch with our flow and love ourselves and start manifesting. So thank you, Martin. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed being with you. I enjoyed the conversation very much.
Thank you again. We'll have to continue. This is a really good topic. So appreciate you coming back, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay. Take care. Take care, everyone.